What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and welcome back to another Warhammer 40K video. Today I am covering the best Tau Empire unit in 8th edition. So now that 8th edition is pretty much done and over with, 9th edition is here with a brand new set of rules and tactics that we've got to get familiarized with. I just wanted to cover what I believed were the top 3 units for the Tau Empire. And if you check the playlist for the Tau, I've got number 3 and number 2 there. Number 3, spoiler alert, being the XV8 Crisis Battlesuit, and number 2, the best support, the drones. So now, let's jump in with my number 1 choice, and that is none other than the XV104 Riptide Battlesuit. Now, the Tau Empire has often been the butt of many jokes, memes, and in general, hate. These blue-faced fish people are too nice for the grim dark universe of 40k. They've got battlesuits that are way too anime, and they crumble in melee way too easily. The list goes on and on. However, during 7th edition, the youngest superpower became the best meta army, all thanks to the introduction of the single unit, the Riptide. This massive battlesuit was a unit to be feared, and taken in 2 or 3, it basically auto-won games. The Riptide wing was so strong that other factions would often ally with the Tau just to bring in this bad boy. And in 8th edition, it still is a unit to be feared, because it is just so powerful with the abilities it has. The stratagems and tactics used in tandem with them are really great, and it may be the best unit in the entire game. Am I saying too much? Am I going too far with this? Perhaps. But listen as to why I believe it is the best, and you tell me if there's anything better in the Tau Empire that trumps this massive behemoth of a battlesuit. So first and foremost, the Riptide is intimidating. It's a pretty big model with a pretty big gun, and because of that, they will definitely be a bullet magnet just by its sheer size and scope, and overall, it's kind of like a centerpiece to a Tau army. It looks pretty striking and dynamic, and your opponent will generally want to kill big things pretty early on. Due to this, it's almost mandatory to stick it in terrain for cover and line-of-sight blocking tactics, or better yet, you can take some shield drones for an insane amount of survivability. Now, in the previous video, I talked about how shield drones were really OP, and basically what you do is you put shield drones anywhere within 3 inches of the Riptide, and their savior protocols will activate when the enemy is targeting and firing at the Riptide. Essentially, on a roll of 2+, whatever damage the Riptide would be taking gets transferred over to the drone, and all that damage is reduced to a single mortal wound. However, if you take shield drones, you do have a 5-up feel no pain, so potentially you could completely ignore the damage done to the drone to continue your shenanigans over and over again. This tactic is a little bit cheap, but a lot of bit good, and it's going to make you be that guy, but at the same time, if you want to win games, this is something you definitely have to do, because it's going to increase your survivability by a lot. It's going to take a lot of firepower to get through these drones, and then once you go through these drones, the Riptide is a pretty chunky boy. They've got 14 wounds at a toughness 7, so even without drone support, they're quite durable. However, take the drones. Always take drones. Not just that, but you could put a technical drone behind it so that you could keep healing it for, I believe it's D3 wounds a turn. So chances are your Riptide's going to get targeted, but there are ways to make it more survivable. I wouldn't necessarily say that the technical drone is an auto-include, because it is an elite unit, and the Tau elite section is filled with a bunch of things you need, especially Riptides. So if you want to take more than one Riptide, I probably wouldn't take the technical drone. Again, there's other ways to keep your Riptide alive. For example, you could use its Nova charge ability to increase that 5-up invulnerable save all the way up to a 3-up, and that's really good. Essentially, you've now got a 2-up regular save, 3-up invuln, and life's good. Now, speaking of the Nova charge, you want to be activating this every single turn because it grants you many good boosts, such as increasing your invulnerable save, like I said previous, boosting your movement to a 2d6 in your charge phase, even if you don't charge an enemy. So that's going back to, I believe it was 5th edition, when the Tau had that jump, shoot, jump, so you could move your Riptide, fire your weapons, and then the assault phase, move your 2d6. So you could essentially jump out of cover, fire, jump back into cover. That's really good. Now the thing about Nova charging, you will be taking a mortal wound every time you activate this, but again, you've got a ton of wounds, so losing one won't really hurt you too much, unless literally your opponent is pouring everything into your Riptides. But there are ways to mitigate that, such as stratagems and stuff like that, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Now with Nova charging, you can also get an increase to your main weapon shot. So for example, the Ion Accelerator will become a heavy 6, and the Heavy Burst Cannon will become a heavy 18. It's really good. Just the amount of shots you can get out with this is really good, and I'd say always do the increase in your weapons, because the potential to deal more damage is always great. If there's nothing in range, then I'd probably go with the 3-up invuln save, or if you want to get into charge range for some reason, go ahead and do that. But there is a stratagem that you can use that essentially will give you 2 abilities for, I believe it's like 1 or 2 command points, so that's really good. Essentially, always do the 3-up invuln save and the more shots, because you're going to be doing a lot of damage, and your enemy's going to notice that, and he's like, I can't have this happen every turn, so I got to take him down. So now your 5-up invuln goes to a 3-up. Chances are you'll weather the storm and continue your onslaught the next turn. In terms of weapon and war gear, I'd say always go with the Heavy Burst Cannon over the Ion Accelerator, because yes, the Accelerator is essentially a stronger weapon, but it gives you less shots. Again, with the Heavy Burst Cannon, it's heavy 12, but you could pump it up to heavy 18. That's 18 shots. That's gonna hurt. Dealing 2 damage each, yeah, that is brutal to whatever you're gonna shoot at. And then give it the ATS, the Advanced Targeting System, so that the armor penetration becomes that much more better. If you are going with custom seps, go ahead. Well, I don't know if upgunned would work. No, I think that's just regular burst cannon, so no, I guess this tactic wouldn't have worked, because upgunned makes the burst cannon profiles into a better AP, and pairing that with the advanced targeting system would be essentially granting all burst cannons an additional -2 AP, which is great, but I don't think it targets the heavy burst cannon. I could be wrong, so correct me if you guys know, but still, it's going to be a brutal tactic combining the ATS with the HBC. Heavy Burst Cannon, Advanced Targeting System, you're going to tear through armor and just do a bunch of wounds. Now for your secondary weapon, you have a variety of weapons you can choose. You can go with the double Smart Missile System, the double Fusion Blasters, or the double Plasma Rifles. It just basically depends on what your opponent will be bringing, if you know what they're bringing. If there's going to be tanks, Fusion Blasters are pretty good, but they got that short range. You've got Plasma Rifles that are pretty good at taking out Marines. But I'd say always take the double Smart Missile Systems. They give you the most amount of shots. You can fire at enemies that aren't in line of sight. And these do pair with the custom sept ability Hardened Warheads? Yeah, Hardened Warheads. So essentially that's going to be bolstering the damage that you're going to be doing with these weapons. So again, that's my go-to: Heavy Burst Cannon, Advanced Targeting System, and the Smart Missile System. And the ATS also pairs with that really well too. So you're going to be hitting really hard. And again, this is just a monster in shooting. Now when it comes to stratagems, there are a ton of great ones, since the Riptide has the keyword for battlesuits. So pretty much everything I talked about stratagem wise in the battlesuits top 3 units that I did previous, that all applies to him. So if you are in a pinch, you could heal him by 3 D3 wounds with the stimulant injector, which kind of mitigates the mortal wound that you're going to be taking every turn with the Nova charge. So that's a way to kind of balance that out. So basically, like I was saying, the automated repair system for 2 command points is what heals you D3 lost wounds. The breached Nova charge for 1 command point, that's what lets you get 2 buffs from the Nova charge instead of 1. The stimulant injector for 1 command point basically lets your Riptide ignore any of the negatives that have been you've gotten by losing wounds, so like being bracketed. So essentially that puts you all the way in the top bracket to give you that one last hitting on that good BS and whatnot. Well, not good BS, but a better BS, so that you can do the most damage you can before it will croak. And the last thing I do want to make note of is that you have an option of taking shielded missile drones. This may sound good, but I think it's just a point sink, where like you'd have to take like a drone controller, and you really have to like position them strategically to make the best use of them, and they're kind of expensive for what they do. So I'd say don't bring the shielded missile drone, just take a regular squad of shield drones or marker drones or a mix of both, so that you've got the protection from the savior protocols. And if you are bringing marker drones, you could benefit off the marker lights and whatnot. There's stratagems to give you better marker light pings, I guess you can say. So all in all, the Riptide is where it's at. Played correctly, this guy will not die in the game. And if he does die, that usually means that your opponent is spending way too much time and way too much target priority focusing on him, that the rest of your army can outmaneuver and outperform your opponent, and that should give you the win. Of course, I'd always say take at least 2, because you're not being that guy by bringing 3. 1's really good, but 2 I think is that sweet spot where your friends will kind of hate you, but they'll still be like, okay, it makes sense. Like, this is the best unit in the game for the Tau. It would make sense why you would bring 2. So for the longest time, I only played 1. I've recently started playing 2, and they do work. They definitely do work. So yeah, if you have any other tips, tricks, tactics for the Riptide, let me know down below. But this is the reason why I believe the Riptide is the best unit in the Tau Empire. Going into 9th, they did get a little bit nerfed because of the whole fly keyword thing. It doesn't allow you to just move right out of combat. Besides that, it's still a pretty imposing model going into 9th edition. With all the rules for terrain and whatnot, yeah, that's going to affect it a little bit, but I still think it's a pretty beast of a model unit overall. So, I don't know. Like I said, 9th edition just started, so we have to wait and see to see exactly how it'll benefit or how it'll have to deal with the changes. And that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know if you agree with the Riptide being the best Tau unit, and if not, what other unit do you think should have been here? Hit that like button if you enjoy all things Warhammer 40K. Subscribe, because we bring you 40K content each and every day. And that's all I got for you guys today. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.